Maryland's defense will dominate Northwestern on Friday.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day, and also video creator on InsideBlackandGold.net. Make sure you guys go to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I honestly think the Terps defense could dominate on Friday evening at 8 o'clock in Friday Night Lights against the Northwestern Wildcats. I really like our chances this week for our defense to have their best game of the year. Maryland's defense this year has been not that good. We expected it to be a lot better. Going into the year, I thought this could be the strength of our team. I thought this is what we could rely on. I thought this is what could win us games. But at the end of the day, the defense hasn't been very good this year. We let Aiden Childs of Michigan State go off on us. We let Indiana put up 350 yards passing against us, and Curtis Rourke to do his thing. The only thing that we've been really good to start the year off at on the defensive side of things is forcing turnovers. That is something that we have done at a really high level. But I think that the matchup against Northwestern and what Northwestern does on offense and how they've played so far this year, I think we have a really good chance of putting together a really good effort against a Northwestern offense that I think doesn't really match up well against us. They don't throw the ball well. They don't do some things good in the passing game, and I think that's going to really benefit the Maryland Terrapins on Friday. I keep wanting to say Saturday. A Friday night game is still kind of weird. It's not weird, but it takes some getting used to say because you're so used to saying a Saturday night game, but against Northwestern on Friday. And I think that the Terps defense will dominate, not only play well, I think we're going to dominate the Northwestern offense. I don't think the Northwestern offense is really going to be able to score much at all. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair for them against Maryland. So I look at the quarterback stats of the Northwestern quarterbacks, and I look at what they have done in the passing game, and I read a little bit, and I'm like, these guys haven't been able to throw the ball really at all the entire year. They've played two different quarterbacks. They played this kid, Mike Wright, and they played this other kid, Jack. And so I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I look at both of their stats, and both of their quarterbacks have played this year have been pretty awful. Jack ranks at the bottom of the Big Ten in terms of basically a lot of categories. He only completes 53.1% of his throws. He's only thrown for 523 yards, which is basically the bottom for the Big Ten starters. And he's only been able to throw at 5.4 yards per completion, which isn't good at all. And as well as he only has 4 touchdowns so far this year. And then I look at their other quarterback that has played some too in Mike Wright, and he hasn't been better either. He's only completed 57% of his throws, which is definitely way lower than you want to be, and thrown for 354 and only averaged 5.4 yards per completion and only has 1 touchdown. So I look at those things and I say, I think Maryland's defense could be in for a really good matchup. And when I say a really good matchup, I mean like not in terms of it's going to be a really good game, in terms of it's going to be two heavyweights going back and forth. That's not what I mean. I mean, we match up really well against this Northwestern team. You got 2 quarterbacks that have played this year that haven't been able to throw the ball. The Northwestern's passing attack ranks 4th worst in the conference with just 877 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. And you could argue maybe it's the worst. And so I attack this a couple different ways. What has Maryland been really bad at so far this year? The secondary, stopping receivers, stopping passing games. Maryland Terrapins have been, I feel like, the worst in the Big Ten at that. Maybe not the worst, but we've been at the bottom of the conference at that. And we've really struggled with corner play, with secondary play, with not giving up big plays, with playing a bunch of different guys, which I still don't know how much I love that, and not being able to find a rhythm in that room and not being able to really figure out how to play the best ball in that room. And so when I see that, and then I see a Northwestern team that doesn't pass the ball well at all, not even mediocre, doesn't pass the ball well at all. Like they've been pretty horrible at passing the rock. And I say the Terps defense has a really good chance to match up really well against Northwestern and to dominate this game, because Northwestern can't take advantage of probably our weakest part of our team right now in that corner room. And other teams have been able to do it. Michigan State was able to do it, like I said. Indiana was able to do it some. Even Virginia, even though they only put up 13 points, they still were able to take advantage of some poor secondary play during the game. And I said some of the same things about Michigan State. I thought Aiden Childs at Michigan State wasn't going to be able to go off, so maybe I could be wrong. I didn't expect to give up 350 to him. So maybe their quarterback kind of rebounds and starts to play a lot harder and a lot better ball. But I really think that this Terps team can dominate the Northwestern, because I think that I look at this game and I say, they're not going to be able to take advantage of our biggest weakness. And then they have rushed the ball somewhat well at times this year. But I'm still on the page that I feel pretty good about our defensive line and stopping the run. And I think that we're going to force Northwestern to some third and longs, and they're going to have trouble converting. They have this kid, Cam Porter, at running back that has been pretty good. He's averaged 5 yards per carry, so he's been doing a pretty solid job for sure. They have another kid in Joseph Hyman who averages 5.5 yards per carry. So they've done a good job, honestly, running the football. But again, I don't think they're that good of a rushing team where I'm like concerned about their rushing attack. I don't think I'm that concerned. Yeah, Cam Porter might be a pretty good player, but he's not someone that scares me. And so I feel pretty good about us being able to, maybe we don't completely eliminate the run game, but I don't think they're going to rush the football all over us. I expect Jordan Phillips, Tommy King-Basote, everyone on the inside of that defense and our whole defensive line, the outside guys, and our linebacker room has been really good so far. This year has been one of the strengths of our team, with guys like Michael Harris really stepping up. Of course, Caleb Wheatland, Ruben Hippolyte are always going to be good players. And so I think that the Terps defense could potentially dominate, because I don't think that they're going to be able to throw the football against us, even with our poor secondary. So if you're looking for a game to get your confidence back as a group, as a secondary, this could be that game. This could be the game where the Terps defense could really rebound and kind of fix a lot of different things. And look maybe better than they should look, because I don't think that Northwestern's quarterback and their passing game overall is very good at all. I don't think they exactly have been able to get things going. And I feel pretty good about us stopping their receiving core and stopping their quarterback. And if we can get some pressure, I don't even think we have to get too much pressure this week. Like when we play other teams, like if we play like Penn State, or like when we play Oregon, we're gonna have to get some pressure on the quarterback to have any chance. But when we play this Northwestern team, I hope our DBs can hold up a little bit, and they should be able to create some coverage sacks. I really think that we're going to be good against this Northwestern team, and I think the Terps defense is going to dominate. I'll say it again. I think they're going to dominate. I think that they're going to be rested coming off of this bye. I'm hoping that we fix a couple things, even though Coach Loxley hasn't been great after a bye, but we've played some decent teams after byes. But I feel pretty good about saying the Terps defense is going to dominate, but there is one caveat. Dante Trader, I don't know his status yet. He could be out. That's definitely a loss that would matter. I would feel a lot better about us if he plays it's looking very like up in the air. There's definitely a big possibility that he doesn't, and there's also a possibility I think that he does. And so if he plays, I feel really good about it. But even if he doesn't play, I still won't change my mind. I still think the Terps defense has the pieces to dominate on Saturday against Northwestern, and Northwestern's been turning over the ball as of late. And so I think that the Terps defense, they've been really good at forcing turnovers, which could also allow you to dominate a Northwestern offense that I honestly don't think is that good. So I'm ready to watch the Terps defense force under 20 points, maybe under 17 points. Anywhere under that, I think I would consider a pretty dominant performance from the Terps defense overall. Let's talk about the offensive side of the things. Can Maryland throw against a Northwestern defense that has actually a sneaky good secondary? We'll talk about that after this ad from FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. There's so many different things you can do on FanDuel, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. If you want to tonight to bet on the Seahawks 49ers game where the 49ers are 3.5-point favorites, you can do that over on FanDuel. There's so many different things you can bet on at FanDuel. So make sure you guys go over to FanDuel, and it's also the MLB playoffs. If you want to bet on any series, or if you want to bet on the Dodgers and Padres game 5, or whatever you want to do on FanDuel, they have basically everything. That's FanDuel.com. So we just talked about the Northwestern defense, or the Northwestern offense versus the Terps defense. Let's change it around. Let's talk about Northwestern's defense versus the Terrapins offense. And so I was reading a little bit about Northwestern and kind of what it feels like their strength of their team is, and they feel pretty good about some of their guys in their secondary. They feel good about two defensive backs. One name is Theron Johnson, who has been really good this year, has an interception, has a tackle for loss. He has 6 passes defended. He's been really good so far this year. Then another kid, Devin Turner, a junior defensive back. He's got some length, 6'1", has a tackle for loss, 2 passes defended, and an interception. So those seem like 2 guys in the secondary that have been pretty good this year for Northwestern. And it sounds like they feel like the secondary is the bright spot. They rank 6th in the conference with 23 passes defended. And the defensive backs feel like they're pretty good over there. Yesterday I said I thought Billy Edwards would be able to throw the ball a little bit more, or I might have said that 2 days ago. But the more and more I look at it, and the more and more I really get into this Northwestern team, I don't know if that's exactly the way to just attack the Northwestern defense. Their secondary has been good. Their defense has been middle of the pack of the Big Ten. And a lot of people might say middle of the pack, well, they're average. Well, there's a lot of really good defenses in the Big Ten. Ohio State is good. Oregon's been pretty good on defense. Penn State might be the best defensive team in the country. There's a lot of really good defensive teams. Even teams like Iowa always have good defenses. So being middle of the pack in the Big Ten at defense means you're still a pretty solid defense overall. And so I think that it's a more interesting matchup than I may have thought. At first, I thought there was a lot of holes, but it sounds like the Terps might actually not be able to just throw the ball all over Northwestern. Here's my thing. I think Northwestern secondary is good, but I don't think it's that good where it's like, okay, Maryland, like we're really going to have to focus on running the football. Like I said the other day, Curtis Rourke did throw for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns and went 25 of 33. And so I feel like, yeah, their passing defense might have been good against some lower level teams, but against Indiana, they weren't very good. And then I look at Will Rogers, Washington's quarterback, a new Big Ten team. He went 20 of 28, 223, 2 touchdowns. So I still do think Billy Edwards is going to be able to throw the football a good amount. Even Malik Murphy had 3 touchdowns, the Duke quarterback, if you guys don't know Malik Murphy, and threw for 243. So I do think that, we might have to be careful with some of their playmakers in terms of turning over the ball. I think that's going to be a big thing in this game. You could potentially see a lot of turnovers in this game. I think that there's a lot of turnover potential with some of the Northwestern with the Northwestern quarterback play. And then I think with some of the Northwestern DBs, they're really good at forcing and getting pass deflections. And so you could see a lot of turnovers in this game. But I do think that Maryland's offense still could be successful. Basically, all the good teams so far this year have been pretty successful. And so I would have said, yeah, Maryland would be able to rush the ball, should be able to rush the ball against Northwestern. But I'm looking at the big games that they've played, and teams haven't been able to rush the ball all over them. I mean, Indiana rushed the ball pretty effectively. Justin Ellison had 14 carries, 68 yards. Tyson Lawton had 10 carries for 52. And Kalen Black had 5 carries for 33 yards. And so I do think it's something that could present itself, but I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be automatic against Northwestern running the football. Like even when I look at Washington, they weren't able to really run the football against them. So I don't think they have a particularly like big weakness and say, oh, they have some talented guys in the secondary, but they're running that, but they aren't able to really stop anything running the football. I don't think that's really the case for Northwestern football. But there is one interesting thing about it is that I think that this defense is pretty balanced. To be completely honest, I think the defense is pretty balanced. So I don't think they're amazing at either thing. I think they have the most talent in their secondary and maybe the most like NFL type of guys and guys that have a chance at the next level. But I do think their defense is rather balanced. So when I think about Maryland's team, I think, like I said yesterday, of course, I want Billy Edwards to run the football more. I think that's something that he's really good at, and I don't get why we've taken that big strength away from him, because that's something that he's been elite at his whole career. And I think that's something that maybe we wait another week and really bring it out against USC. I'd rather do that than just run the ball this week against Northwestern when we don't really need it. But at the end of the day, we need wins right now. We're not good enough to be like, oh, we don't need to really pull out the run game against Northwestern. Like, no, we gotta win games. But if you're able to win this game without Billy Edwards rushing the football, I don't hate it. But I do think in the general scheme of things, you need to run the ball more. But I think Maryland's offense can basically be what we've been. I don't think that we have to focus more on the run game. I don't think we have to focus more on the pass game. I do want to get the passing attempts down a little bit. I don't need Billy Edwards throwing the ball 80 times a game. I just don't. But I do think that Northwestern's defense could present some challenges. Now, Caden Prather and Ty Felton are both expected to play. That's going to be a big thing. And we'll see. They are going to definitely try and shut Ty Felton down, I think. I think they have some good players back there, and I think they're going to take that matchup personally. But I think that Maryland's offense is going to be fine against Northwestern secondary that has some really good players, that ranks at a solid spot in the Big Ten. I think that the thing that I'm really excited about is I think that Maryland's offense is going to be on the field a lot. I don't think Northwestern's offense is going to be able to do much. So I think they're going to be punting a lot, and I think we're going to tire them out. And we might not score a ton at first, but I think eventually we're going to really get to them. And so I still think that the Terps offense will be more than good enough on Friday night at 8 o'clock against Northwestern. Can the Terps land Jordan Scott today? We'll talk about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I have been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on tickets right at the start of an event and even an hour after it starts. It's a place to find last-minute seats and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So the Terps, Maryland basketball, has a big recruit on the radar today that is supposed to make his decision today at, I think it was 6 o'clock. And that is Jordan Scott, who I honestly think is a really good player, but I haven't talked about him a lot because I don't know if we're going to land this kid. We're very much in the mix to land him today, but it does sound like it's going to be hard. But if we do land Jordan Scott, this 2025 class is really good. Sounds like it's between Virginia Tech, us, and Michigan State, but it sounds like Michigan State and Tom Izzo over there really have a nice, healthy lead and look like they're going to probably end up landing Jordan Scott. But of course, I've been wrong before. The predictions have been wrong before. So he's still a guy we're going to talk about because he's ranked really highly. He's got a lot of tools. And so I think he's definitely a guy we want to mention because we're in this top three. And we'll see how the chips may lie. But he's a small forward. He's 6'7", 185. He's got a lot of length on him. He's ranked 52 nationally on 247. He's the 11th ranked small forward, second in the state of Virginia. I think that's where Maryland has some of the advantage, and probably Virginia Tech does too, the fact that he's a Virginia kid. But it does sound like Michigan State is the favorite. All the 247 predictions have him going to Michigan State. But Adam Finkelstein says Scott's a big wing with versatile potential on both ends of the floor. In addition to his potential and size, he's very active wing rebounder, has good defensive metrics, and is a developing shooting stroke from behind the three-point line, a good feel for the game and an understanding of how to play within the team concept. However, he's still fairly undeveloped physically and can struggle to play through contact and doesn't always assert himself like a top prospect should be capable of. Scott's a willing passer and a reliable decision maker with the ball in his hands and likes to take smaller defenders in the mid post where he can utilize his size and shoot over the top of them, but doesn't otherwise put much pressure on the rim, showing very little creative or playmaking as a handler at this point. The most translatable part of Scott's offense game right now is probably his three-point shooting. He's not a totally pure shooter, but he also shot 36% of his attempts on high volume, seven plus attempts per game. So it sounds like in terms of him physically, he still has work to do, which is completely fine. You kind of want some of these guys that come in not polished, not 100% ready to go, guys that need to be groomed up a little bit, guys that still need to get better. I think that's not a bad spot for Maryland basketball. And when a lot of guys go to the NBA, a lot of those guys go into those one and done types of guys. They come in unpolished, not as strong as they need to be, their shots not as good as they need to, but they have a lot of tools. And I think you look at a guy like this, he's a lot of tools. He's just still got to figure some things out. It sounds like he's not as aggressive all the time. And it also sounds like he doesn't put a lot of pressure on the rim, but he shoots a lot of threes. And at 6'7", if you can shoot the ball, I think that's a benefit for Maryland basketball. You sound a little bit, not exactly, sound a little bit like Jamie Kaiser did a little bit in terms of he has a chance to be a good shooter, it sounds like, but right now he doesn't put a ton of pressure on the rim. But it sounds like he might be a little bit more athletic. He just hasn't quite figured out how to put it together, and he needs to get stronger. And so he's a guy that also can translate on the defensive side of things, it sounds like. Definitely a guy we want, like a top 60 type of player. But I think that if Michigan State gets him, I think we're all right. I think it's going to be completely fine. We already have 2 4-stars in our 2025 class. But I do think that we still have somewhat of a shot. I mean, he's probably already made his mind up by now, so we'll see kind of how it goes. But I think that there's somewhat of a shot. Most of the countries actually, or most of the recruiting websites are lower on him than 247 is. Like the 247 composite that takes all the recruiting websites has him ranked 91st. So other recruiting websites are a little bit lower on him, it sounds like, but that's totally fine. He's still a top 100 player on most people's board. But yeah, On3 basically says he's going to Michigan State. So we'll see what happens. These things aren't always right, but they are a lot of the time. But I do think we have somewhat of a chance, and he'd be another huge get to Maryland's 2025 class. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.